All right, everybody. Well, thank you once again for tuning in to Live from My Drum Room. It's a pleasure to see so many folks watching today. And boy, I'm so excited about today's episode. I've been wanting to get my guest, the great Matt Frenette, on here with me for some time. And he's been a busy guy, but we finally managed to land on a date, and I'm so excited to welcome him. So please give a warm welcome to my dear friend for many years and a true legend, the great Matt Frenette of Loverboy, live from my drum room. Matty!
Johnny D. Oh my
So good
God,
to
it's been forever.
I know. It's been at least we were getting to see each other at NAMM shows a few years ago before COVID, which was always a nice little treat to say hello there. But I know, but it's been a while. It's been a minute.
Are you buried in snow up there?
Not too bad. We got like the last 2 days, two little sort of flurries of a couple of inches, but nothing. We haven't had any real snow here in a few years, and I'm not complaining. I'm knocking wood as I say that. I don't. Right, as we get older, the snow
Yeah,
isn't as fun anymore. So
I know. I know. I love the room. Oh my gosh, so many
thank you.
awards up there. It's just amazing.
Well,
And
thank you.
you were telling me earlier about the Camco. Didn't
Yes,
DW take the lug and didn't they purchase? I mean, originally that same lug is, and I used to have a Camco
oh,
snare
you
drum.
did. You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
back when I was just a kid, my parents were renting me a snare drum after I learned to play bongos in the start when I was like 6 years old, and they rented me a snare drum from the local music store, and it was a Camco, and it was like marine oyster, like your shells there.
Wow. That drum is probably worth a pretty penny nowadays because
I'll
they
bet.
they fetch a big price. So yeah, and the story goes because when I met you, I was working for DW. I don't know if you remember. I mean, we
Yeah,
spent a
I
lot of years when I was at Zildjian, but I met you in '88, and it was like my last year at DW. But so the story goes that when Camco finally sort of went under, or I should say, they'd been bought by. The guy that now runs Roland, ironically, in California, who bought DW a few years ago. It's just ironic that Roland, but it goes back to Camco had changed hands a few times, and basically
right.
Tama, the company Tama, bought the brand name Camco, but DW bought the tooling for the lugs and the hoops and the chain drive pedal and all the
Right,
things that we
right.
remember. So that DW lug, of course, is the old Camco lug, and yeah, and boy, what a success that company has become.
Yeah, I actually went to the factory in Oxnard, California, when I was living in Orange County when I first moved from BC to California
Yeah,
for
yeah,
ballet training for Patrick and Emma. And a buddy of mine who was kind of endorsing DW at the time. He flew down to John Wayne and we drove up in my car up to the factory. And Neil Peart had his NHL kit all in the back. And
yeah.
it
Wow,
was on shelves. And I got the tour and it was like it was amazing.
it
And
is. It's
who was in practicing in the drum room?
Terry
Terry
Bozzio.
Bozzio.
Yeah, yep.
And
Yeah,
met his wife, his Japanese wife at the time, and
yep.
um, he had this monstrous kit. And we went into the room, and it was all like bowing and humility and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
he had this amazing drum set in his own like little studio.
I've been to DW a couple of times up to the new Oxnard place where they've been for some time now. And
Yeah.
I've seen Terry there pretty much every time. And he's like a fixture. At the time anyway, he was like, he had that room and he's just a nice, he's such a hero of mine.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he's just the nicest, most just incredible guy, like human. And then as a
Yeah.
drummer, oh my God. But,
Oh my gosh.
I
I
know, I know.
know.
What that's so cool. I first of all, I have to show you because we talked about this earlier. But I'm just so proud of my Loverboy Platinum Awards that you sent me when I was still working for Zildjian,
Yeah.
and that's Get Lucky on the right and
And I have
classics.
that just over here in my living room. Um, and I have oh, that's the classics.
Yeah, that's like a best of compilation, right?
Yeah. And that came out in like 95 or something. Um, and I don't have that on the wall for some reason. But I have the Loving Every Minute of It set up just like that over here. And just over my right shoulder is an award that Ludwig gave me, and they inducted me in 2014 into the Ludwig Hall of Fame in Monroe, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, when Wade Carpenter was working for them at the
That's so
time.
great.
And we've become really, really, really good friends. And he gave me this award over here, and it's got a picture of the 81 Ludwigs down below and a Keystone badge and the a signed drum head in honor of me, blah, blah, blah. Wade set all this up and dated it. And then there's, oh, yeah, there they are.
Man, man, I'm glad you. Well, this is great because I was definitely going to work this into the conversation today and talk about
Okay.
these drums and the sound of these drums and in my mind their legendary status in music because we all saw these in all the videos. You guys were, I mean, when you think about Loverboy, when you guys in the US, when you guys hit in like 81 ish,
Yeah.
MT,
Yeah. We started headlining in 82. We did three support tours in 81. Um, Kansas for the first 4 months of the year, ZZ Top on Mad Mechanic in the middle of the year, and Journey on Escape with Steve and Steve.
wow.
Oh my God. And we finished at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, 4 nights sold out at the old Cow Palace.
Yeah. Oh
I mean,
man.
that was unbelievable. And Smith they had this big, huge stage, and he would warm up underneath the stage on a practice kit to when we were playing live up on the main deck. And we would finish the set, and then we would like hug arm in arm and walk to the dressing room, and he'd be soaked and I'd be soaked. It was just like,
That's man.
oh man.
I want to back up a half a minute and just congratulate you on this incredible career that's still going strong. But I wanted to say that at the very top of this is that you guys have been, by my estimation, over 45 years going
Yeah.
strong,
Yeah.
and still packing them in, and the
We
songs are
formed the band
timeless.
in November 1979 in
Okay,
Vancouver.
yeah.
And then we recorded the first album in like February of 1980. And our next gig on the 15th is with Cheap Trick at a casino in outside of Sacramento on the 15th coming up.
All
And
right.
that was our first tour in Canada, was warming up Cheap Trick in Western Canada in 1980.
Wow.
So we haven't
Full.
seen and worked with
Yeah.
those guys forever. And it's been an incredible last 3 to 4 years. I mean, after 2 years of not touring for COVID, 2020 and 2021, we started up with Styx and REO Speedwagon in 2022, 3 years ago. and did 4 months with that tour. And that was incredible. And then the following summer, we did Foreigner. And then last summer was with Sammy Hagar with his all-star band, with
Oh
Jason
yeah.
on drums and Satriani on guitar and Michael
Oh
on
man.
bass. And it was just like,
Unbelievable.
oh yeah.
And you're such a drum guy, from knowing you all these years that I could see you totally all you drummers on these tours just being drum buddies, you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
knowing Dax Nielsen, who's Cheap Trick's drummer, who
Yeah.
you'll see on the 15th, is such a great guy and such a great drummer, and and a real, in the nicest way, a drum geek like the rest of us, like really knows his
Right.
gear, you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, that makes it so much fun when you guys are out there with these bands and you
I
all
know the
bond together.
camaraderie is incredible, and everybody's in catering for dinner at 5, and
Yeah,
everybody's like hanging out. We just did 3 shows with Styx, 10th, 11th, and 12th of January this year, 3 in a row down in Florida. And
oh yeah,
that was amazing to see them and hang out with them again. And Todd was with his new sonar kit, and
yeah.
it just looked and
He's
sounded like amazing.
yeah.
And Todd is just like,
Oh my God,
oh my
Todd. Yeah.
gosh. I'm just like want to snap my sticks, before I go on stage over my knee,
No,
Yes.
well, Todd will make any drummer want to snap their sticks, but you've got plenty to be proud of.
Well,
Man,
that's
you're,
very kind, Johnny. Thank
yeah,
you.
man, I got to tell you, personally, I told you this when I first met you, but, I was playing in a band in the 80s, a top 40 band, and you had to play Loverboy songs. I mean, because that's what was on the radio. And
Right.
my band in those days, we covered, of course, Working for the Weekend, Hot Girls in Love, Queen of the Broken Hearts. I think early on we did Take Me to the
That's most
Top.
of our set right now.
Well, yeah, it's got to be. I mean, they're listening to these songs again recently. They're so timeless and they sound so good, man. The
Yeah,
drums.
we recorded those in Vancouver at Little Mountain with Bob Rock engineering, and we all know
Oh,
everything that
yeah.
Rock did, and Bruce Fairburn producing. And it was pretty much live off the floor in the big room at Little Mountain. And then after our record hit, Get Lucky, everybody wanted to record at Motley and oh God, who else?
Everybody, yeah. He was producing everybody, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. And Bob called me and Spider, our bass player now, um, to play on a Black and Blue album that they were recording at Little Mountain. And they had finished all the tracks. And we ended up doing this cover, Aerosmith's cover called Same Old Song and Dance.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob called me and he says, who should I get on bass? I just need one more track to do, and everybody's gone back to LA, and I'm here with the singer, and we're just finishing up tracks. And Bob played guitar on the track, and I set up my Ludwig kit, and Spider flew in from Winnipeg, and Spider and I just basically learned the song and recorded it all in about an hour. You know, live right off the floor. Da 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 da
Yeah,
da
yeah.
da da do do. And it was just like it was like pinned.
Oh,
And
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
I could see you nailing that though. That's you've got such a great feel, and that song is so much feel to it. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
man, listening to those tunes too. I'm gonna get to playing them in a minute, but I'm guessing all those songs at that time, like there were no click tracks on those records, right? That was just you guys in the studio
Correct.
playing like a band, just everybody in the room together.
Everybody off the floor, Mike in a vocal booth, and we ended up doing overdubs, guitars, and some keyboards and
Yeah,
backing vocals, and I would do a few percussion things, tambourine stuff, but everything, the bed track was all live right off the
yeah.
floor. And on the Get Lucky album, Take Me to the Top is actually from the 16 track demo that we did at Mushroom Studios between ZZ Top and Journey in 81. We went into just demo songs for the Get Lucky album, and we could not nail Take Me to the Top as good as what we did on the demo, the 16 track.
Wow. How about
So
that?
that is remixed from the 16 track 2-inch analog tape back in the day at
Yeah.
Mushroom. And that's where Dreamboat Annie with Heart did their first record on Mushroom Records in the big room with a tall ceiling and cement and everything. And it just had a natural um, ambience.
Yeah.
It's
There's
like playing
something
in a church.
it's something, man. It's like these records, there's something about the analog tape sound. And I'm no engineer, and I'm sure there are people watching that know this better than me. But there's like a fullness and a fatness to especially the drums that you can't replicate that with digital recordings. I mean,
Yeah.
to my ears, you'll never
Yeah.
get it sounding like
And
that.
who was the B engineer was Ken Lomas. Um, no, Mike Frazier. Ken Lomas was the the third engineer at Little Mountain, and Mike
Ah,
Frazier the was Bob Rock's number one. It was this
yeah.
incredible team at Little Mountain, and we would just like put all this stuff down, and we baffled the big Ludwig kit and sent that into the loading bay, and that was the natural ambience on the drums.
And so everybody was in the same room. You
Yeah,
just had baffles around the drums,
yeah,
but with that what adds to the sort of magic mix is like a little bit of leakage, maybe, right? Just a tiny bit of leakage here and there
yeah, yeah.
that's all the secret sauce to it,
And Bob was the master of cutting those 2-inch tapes. I mean, I'd go into the control room and I'd see like like strips and strips of my fills from the original takes, you know,
Wow.
and they'd go, okay, and Fairburn would come out and Bruce would walk out to the like the manager in baseball, walk out to the pitcher's mound um to like get the pitcher throwing strikes, and he'd walk out in between takes and he'd say to me, okay, Matty, that was really good and really safe. Now play everything in the kit. And it's the big Ludwig kit. And he'd just go,
Yeah.
like freaking go for it, you know?
Okay.
And then I would do like It's Your Life from the second album and just like play everything, you know? It was
Yeah.
just like,
I was going to say, and there's a couple of big fills, and always on my mind too. And I must have heard it before, but it's from the first record, and I'm more familiar with probably what came after that, from Get Lucky
yeah,
and then
yeah,
onward. But it's interesting how it's almost like you guys in the early days were almost in like a prog sort of vein. Some of the music, you know what I mean? It was.
especially that first record.
Yeah, the first record, exactly. And I say that in the sense that purely, from the standpoint of how adventurous you guys were with the music, and not to say you weren't later, but it's like when you said that was a safe take, now go for it. Like that's a great example to me of you guys really stretching and trying some different shit.
Yeah, yeah. And the first album has different genres on it. It has a reggae track and it has the punk little girl, the punk thing that was coming from the late 70s
Yeah.
and early 80s with Elvis Costello and all of that, and Always on My Mind. And it's still one of my favorites.
Is it in the set list often? Do you guys play it a lot
No,
on shows? Yeah. Okay.
the only songs we play from the first album is Turn Me Loose and Kid Is Hot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense because and I'm sure there are in any situation you've got your diehard fans that want like the album tracks, they want the sort of deep tracks, but everybody loves the hits. You guys, and when you
Yeah.
got a lot of hits, you gotta play the hits because you don't want
Yeah,
people
it's
going
tough
home saying,
sometimes to deciding on the set list. Uh,
Yeah. No, that's a good problem to have, though.
yeah, I guess.
That's a
And
good
we do
problem.
like to get into those deep tracks, like you just mentioned.
Yeah. And I just want to say hi to everybody watching out there. We have a whole bunch of people watching at home today, and a lot of our friends, including Dave Wasikinen, who we were just talking about.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they toured with us in '86 with the Hooters.
the Hooters. Yeah. All right. All right.
So we were talking about the '81 Ludwigs, and I think I just got them back about 9 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, I want to hear about that. I did not know that until recently. Bob
When
Sedlowski
I when
mentioned
I
that.
moved to the States and immigrated to California in 2008, there was only so much room in the moving truck. And so we had to, and that was a decision I didn't really want to make.
Yeah.
And I had all these drum kits. And I had my original Champagne Sparkled Ludwigs from '69. That was my first professional drum kit, and I wasn't letting those go. And
No.
I cut the first album with that kit and the Street Heart stuff previous in Canada. And then I got my '81 Ludwigs in '81 for the Get Lucky album and continued touring in from '82 on. And I tracked the guy down on Facebook who bought them from this music store um, in Vancouver. And
Wow.
I just set them up and just said, I'm going stateside. Just call me when you get a decent offer. It was like the worst mistake that I ever made. I regretted it every day after that. And then I tracked the guy down who bought them and kept them all intact with the same heads. And the front logo heads on the bass drums were from the Wild Side album in '88.
Wow.
They had the logos on them still on the 24-inch Ludwig bass drums. And so I did a deal with a spare Yamaha kit that I had at the time, cherrywood, uh, birch, absolute birch, like recording customs.
Mm.
And I wasn't touring with the kit. And he said he wanted DWs or like $10,000. And I went, dude, you know who you're like,
Come on. Yeah.
come on, they're my drums, you know? And so
Ah.
we finally worked a deal out, and he wanted a bag of cymbals. He needed cymbals and he wanted shells. And I said, I don't play DW, I play Yamaha.
Yeah.
I said, I've got a spare set of Yamahas. And the band was playing on Vancouver Island within a couple of months. And so I invited him to sound check. And the backline kit, I got recording custom Birch for him to check out and from the backline. And he kind of just went for it. And a whole bag of crashes and rides and chinas and splashes, all my old Zildjians that I had stock, you know. So we did this deal, and he shipped me. No, when I shipped him the Yamahas in these Yamaha hard shell cases, um, he put the Ludwigs in the empty cases and sent them
Perfect.
back to me. And
That's great.
I just remember FedEx pulling up outside the house, and I was just like this kid in the candy store, like for Christmas.
Oh
And I
man.
got out, and the guy started loading out all the gray cases. And on the front lawn, I took the lid off the bass drum case, and I just broke down, and I just started crying.
I'm
You know?
sure. Oh, that's they're back with their rightful owner. And so he must not have played them, right? He must have just put them away.
He did. He was using some of the drums with he was kind of like a stockbroker. And
Hmm.
he wasn't like a professional drummer. He just did like little pickup gigs once in a while. And he had this little practice room down in the basement. And he had a bar system with some Pearl and a few of my Ludwigs, like the 12-inch tom and a few things in floor toms. And I never let the Coliseum snare drum go with the sale. So I
Yeah,
retained that drum and I still
great,
have that, the original 81 Coliseum.
man. So now the kit
I think
is, yeah.
like the Butcher Block side.
I remember that drum. It was a monster
Yeah,
drum, the 8-inch Coliseum. Yeah, heavy. Did it have the cast hoops at that time too?
yeah, it did.
Yeah,
And what
yeah,
I played live for all the tours and on record was the Superphonics, the Chrome,
yeah, yep. And that's what's on Get
five or
Lucky.
five
That's
and a half. Yeah,
yeah. Okay. It's so it was a smaller one, just the 5 Superphonic, not the
yeah.
6.5.
No,
Yeah,
no. And I preferred the five or five and a half, but now on my hybrid, I play a six
you do. Yeah.
Yamaha hybrid.
Boy, listening to Get Lucky, I figured it was a Ludwig snare of some kind, and I would have guessed it was the 6.5 just by the sound, by the how big it sounds, just like that. But you probably tuned it kind of more medium, not so
Yeah, I
tight.
did. I
Yeah,
did. Yeah. And there's a lot of 80s Bob Rock in
I was
there
gonna say some
with
Bob Rock
splodge, you know.
mojo in it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He just got
Mojo
that
in the
sound.
mix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sound. You mentioned the record came out in '81 in the States, but it came out earlier in Canada
Yeah, 1980.
in '80, and
Yeah, the first album.
it was like for a lot of bands, I'm sure too. It was a little tough for you guys to sort of break at first in the States.
Yeah, because we didn't have a record deal in the United States. We only signed through Canada in early 80. And Jeff Burns from CBS, just came to one of our shows with Styx in
Wow.
January because he was wintering down there. And he came out with his wife, and it was so good to see him. And we've seen him the last few times we've gone through and played the Budweiser stage on a few of these tours in the past 3 years with REO and Styx 3 years ago, and Foreigner 2 years ago, and Hagar last summer. We always
Yeah.
play the Budweiser stage at this, um, and it's a massive amphitheater, holds about 25,000.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's man, everybody singing along to all the songs. It's nothing
yeah, it
better than
was it
that.
was a great bill. And Jason was doing the whole Alex Van Halen honor thing with the big kit and the small toms and
Hmm.
all of that. And that was a great tour last summer.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Great bunch of guys too,
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and when I know, like we said earlier on too, when Get Lucky hit, I think, the combination MTV had come out like in the fall of '81, and you
right.
corrected me in saying it was '82 when Get Lucky came out, but I remember that those songs being regular rotation is an understatement. You could not watch MTV for more than an hour and not see at least two Loverboy videos within that time. I mean, you were like the darling. There were like a few bands that were,
Yeah, we were one of the first bands to submit videos. I know Cyndi Lauper and Aha and Eddie Money and
yeah,
all those early bands, Foreigner, REO. There was just so many incredible groups, and it was just like 24/7 rolling. And we recorded in Albany, New York, working for the weekend, and when it's over,
Yeah. Yep.
something else.
And so I wanted to ask you that. So those videos were because what we'd call performance videos. Those are always my
Yeah,
favorite when the band would be, you know, miming to the record, but perfectly. I mean, you guys like you were playing the fills. It looked like you were really, and you were playing the fill. I mean, you really were, but it wasn't like the way you see some bands just like setting up a couple of instruments with no cables plugged into the guitars. You know what I mean? And just sort of going through the motions. I mean, it really looked like you were going
yeah,
full bore for
yeah.
it. So that was on
I know in
stage.
Lucky Ones from that same recording session, and we recorded for 2 days and then played on the third night in that theater in Albany, New York, in '82. And somebody sent me a GIF last of a clip of me doing that fill in Lucky Ones, the big
Mm,
fill with the
yeah,
splash, the 8-inch splash or the six in the middle of that fill.
I know it.
And it's like this little GIF. Um, and anyway, that's from that recording of those videos.
I'm going to move on to a photo that I'd like to show you that I think you'll appreciate. We were just talking about this 20 years ago. This photo was taken at the NAMM show of a
Oh,
bunch of
wow.
a bunch of bunch of old buddies hanging out. This was from the, and I'll just set this up and you can give your recollection of it. But this was an autograph session that we held at the NAMM booth at our booth, the Zildjian booth at the NAMM show in January 2005. And
Wow.
I know it was that year because, as you pointed out, it was the year that we honored Louis Bellson
Yep.
and Earl Palmer and Roy Haynes at this. They'd all turned 80 or 81 that year. And
Right.
we had a
I
big party
forgot
for
about
them. Yeah.
that.
And Peter Erskine played with I think his trio played.
Yep.
And
And Peter's right there, right
yeah,
behind my head.
that's right.
And
That's
there's
Peter.
there's Steve Gadd to his left. I
Yeah.
mean,
Denny Sywell.
unbelievable. So many greats. Simon Phillips down in front of me, and Jonathan Moffat right beside him, and Kenny giving you like the big bear hug, and
Yeah.
then
The headlock.
Russ
Yeah.
and Vinny and Billy up top, and Dennis.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. And
Yep.
and the late
Tommy,
great Ian
Ian
Wallace.
Wallace. That's right. Tommy Campbell,
Yeah.
Pat Petrillo, uh, the drummer for Creed. I'll remember his name, Scott Phillips.
There you
Scott
go.
Phillips. Yeah, you said Russ Miller, Vinny, a couple of my Zildjian boys, Jim McGathy, Greg Stein.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, great times, great times. And I just remember like you and Louis Bellson side by side at the autograph session.
Yeah. I'll never forget that when you tapped me on the shoulder and we were already going signing all the autographs, and you tapped me on the shoulder and just whispered in my ear. You said, "Do you mind if I sit Louis beside you?" And I got up immediately from my chair and said, "Oh, what an honor. I mean, this would be incredible." And then once we got a chair situated on my left for Louis, he leaned over and said, and whispered in my ear, he said, if you could slow the autographs down a little bit when they come to you, just because he's having trouble. He said, I having trouble signing my name
Yeah,
with as fast as everything's going by.
yeah,
So
yep.
I just went,
That's
Mr.
beautiful.
Belson, absolutely. So I mean, that was one of the best memories.
I remember, Maddie. I do. Well, you reminded me of it recently, I recalled you were like a little kid that day, and I would be the same way. I
Yeah.
never took for granted my relationship with Louis and how special it was. Just when he'd call on the phone or when I'd
Yeah.
see him at the show, and just he was just such he was, God, I'm gonna cry thinking about it because he was
Yeah.
just so
And isn't
amazing.
he the inventor, as I know it, he's the inventor of the double bass drum.
I think he's rightfully credited as the first drummer to
Right.
use two bass drums. I think so, and there might have been. I think there might have been someone before him, but I think he's the guy that really sort of did it and stayed with it. Sort of created that whole
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
doing that. Yeah. Just yeah. I know it brings back great memories, and
I
just
know.
seeing all you guys in that photo is and
I
it's
haven't been to a NAMM since before COVID. And I thought about it this year because we had a little bit of time off because we had such a busy year last year with all of our own shows and then the Sammy Hagar tour, July and August. And then we started right up in September and we did a little mini tour with Foreigner in September. And then we had October off. And then November was with another little mini tour of 10 shows with REO Speedwagon.
yeah,
And
man.
so we took December off and we've been just kind of hanging out. We had those 3 shows with Styx, 10th, 11th, and 12th of January down in Florida. And we're just kind of like hanging out. Oh, God. Yeah.
You and Bill Gibson
Yeah.
and me. This was probably, it says 2014. So there it is, 11 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
That
No,
would be the last NAMM that I was at.
wow. Okay, I went a few years after that, but I haven't been since COVID, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I think I'm maybe kind of done going there. Just it's a little different than it used to be, and it was fun to
Right.
go after I
So
left
I hear.
Zildjian. Yeah, and it was fun to go when I wasn't working, and I could really enjoy it and see you and all my friends
Yeah.
and not be at the booth losing my mind. But yeah, it's different now, and that's cool. It's yeah,
What a great photo.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
You guys, the two of you guys are two of my favorites, and I love this photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, great
I
history. And
think in 83, we took Huey out, if you can believe that, as support.
wow, I do. Yeah,
Keep It Up tour. I think it was 83. And then we did a date with Huey headlining in down in San Juan, Puerto Rico some years ago, at the arena
wow.
there, the old what's that place called? Roberto Clemente Coliseum,
Ah, yeah, yep.
boxer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would make sense because hey, there's Bill Gibson. There he is. He's watching us right now.
Really?
Wow, I didn't even know
Hey,
that, and I put
Bill.
that picture up. Hey, Bill. Bill says it was 83. Yeah, because that makes sense because you guys were like on top of the world. Huey was just getting going. The sports record came out in 83, and yeah, and then they just forget about it. Just
Yeah, I know. Hey,
man.
Bill. How you doing,
Wow,
brother?
Bill, so good to see you. Oh, I
Yeah.
love him. I love him.
Yeah.
I had him on a few weeks ago too. We did like a track talk episode where the music was playing, uh, but I have one more little surprise. I'm gonna up my sleeve here that I think we can do.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Let's see if we can play this. This is a little something you guys recorded back in, as it turns out, 1981. You're hearing that,
Yeah.
Everyone's watching to see what you do. Everyone's looking at you. Oh, everyone's wondering, will end. Everybody needs a second chance. Oh, you want a piece of my heart? You better start from the start. You wanna be in the show? Come on, baby, let's go.
There's those Ludwigs.
Man, they sound so good.
Everyone's looking to see if it was you. Everyone wants you to come through. Everyone's hoping it'll all work out.
I think great Scott Smith.
Everyone's waiting, they're holding out. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody wants a new romance.
Green.
Hey, hey, everybody's going off the deep end. Everybody needs a second chance. Oh, you want a piece of my heart? You better start from the start. You wanna be in the show? Come on, baby, let's go. You want a piece of my heart? You better start from the start. You wanna be in the show? Come on, baby, let's go. You want a piece of my heart? You better start from the start. You wanna be in the show? Come on, baby, let's go.
Yeah. Woo!
Man, come on. That song. I was going to save that for the end, but we we called an audible and played it now.
Yeah.
What a tune. Let's talk about that tune too. I mean, we talked about the drum sound. What you play in that song, I covered that song and I tried to play it exactly the way you did because it's a like I wanted it to be as faithful as possible. It's not an easy song to cop with all those little like the crashes you're doing. You save for the second chorus, the psh, 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 keeping
Yeah.
the floor going and
Yeah, and it's quarters on the hi-hats
yes, yeah,
with the kick drum.
yep, yeah, and that you're doing
And
almost
a
like
lot of people play that with eights.
right.
And when we're playing it now, and we still have 4 out of 5 originals, and God bless Scotty. It's so great to see him in the video again. And he lost his life in 2000 sailing his boat, and
Yeah.
so anyway, so it's just like that track just still kicks, and everybody that's watching it now live, they're doing all the crashes. It's like they're not even drummers, and it's just like fans down front are doing
Right.
the crashes and the snare fills and stuff. It's like
Exactly. No, and I gotta say, I mean, you are the guy that's I think is most associated or most credited for what we call like drummer face. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I mean that in the best way, Maddie, obviously. But that video,
thanks.
yeah, that was like, I swear to God, like I found myself when I'd be playing gigs, like, those faces you make are just like, drummer face, you know, and like they're like legendary, you know. Yeah, and it's you.
Yeah, mouth open. And
Yeah.
it trust me, I've tried to not do that in videos back in the day, and it's impossible.
No, man, it's you. It's so great. It's so
And
great.
that one in Queen of the Broken Hearts, no, Hot Girls in Love with the Gas Pumps.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. I don't have the video for that queued up, unfortunately, but
It's fine.
yeah.
Um,
But
yeah, we,
what a tune for, and when it comes to like energy, like you say, everybody that you don't have to be a drummer. Everybody does those crashes. You can hear them. You know, you don't have to be a drummer to know where they go in the tune. But it's such a well-crafted drum track, drum part that you came up with. So kudos, buddy. It's,
oh, thank you.
yeah. And like you said, the four on the floor just drives it. It's just pulses all the way through. The quarter notes in the hi-hat, not eighths. You know, it's you'd think like some people might automatically do that, but the quarter notes are what really like makes it groove, really pumps it. You
Yeah,
know?
and the guitar solo, I go to 16ths on the hats.
Yep. Yep. And then you start that fill in the snare, la-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, dun, dun. And it's, I guess what I'm getting at is the way you hit those cymbal crashes, but still get the snare beats in there in the 2 and the 4. You know, it's like a,
Yeah, yeah. I
I
see you're doing it with the left because you're a southpaw.
Yeah, yeah. I know it probably looks confusing, even more confusing, but yeah.
I'm trying to see the mirror image of that
No,
you air drumming. It's all good.
Yeah, that always gave me so much inspiration. And again, that record that had all those songs on it, you won 6 Juno Awards. That Get Lucky won 6 Juno Awards.
6 out of 6. We were nominated for 6 and 106, and I don't think that record's ever been broken up in Canada.
Wow.
And we went into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Bob Rock inducted us back, I don't know, can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. What an honor that is. And I
In the
think
90s.
Yeah, in the 90s. And I think people watching this, in case they don't know what the Juno Awards are, they are the Canadian version of Grammy Awards.
Correct.
And it's a huge honor, and it's just kind of an interesting, you know, timing that the Grammys were last night here. And
Yeah, right.
And you guys, I mean, you guys cleaned up with that record, rightfully so, because it was such a big record.
And people were getting upset because it was in Toronto at the time that year. And Rush was up and all these amazing Canadian bands. And by the 4th or 5th, and they'd say our name and we'd have to go back up. And people were starting to get upset and like murmuring and booing from the back seats. And it's just like, what? Not again. Producer and writer and engineer and album of the year, group of the year, single of the year. Yeah.
It's well deserved. Well deserved.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm gonna try to play another song,
Okay.
Why don't we try? Should we try to play "Turn Me Loose"?
Yeah.
All right, let's try that. And from the first record, Loverboy, 1980-81 in the States, "Turn Me Loose," and of course everybody knows this song.
Sounds good.
It does sound good. All right.
Recorded and mixed at Little Mountain.
Okay.
The second album, Get Lucky, was recorded at Mushroom and mixed at Little Mountain.
16th notes on the hi-hat.
Yep.
I was born to run, I was born to dream. The craziest boy you ever seen. I gotta do it my way. On my way at all.
Yeah, we don't mess with the stuff live.
That's great. Yeah, you don't need to mess with it. Yeah,
We keep all the tempos the same.
that's great.
Fills. Doug's computerized, but he has all the analog samples from the records in his computers.
Yeah, so he can pull up that original sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this has got like a proggy feel to it.
And I go to one hand on the hi-hat. Eights. It still sounds good even after all this time. It was
Yeah.
recorded so well. And when I hear that on the radio in my car, rarely when I listen to, and I live in Raleigh, Kicks FM does 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
and I catch it some once in a while. It still sounds great on the radio, still really punchy.
Absolutely. Yeah. It really does. I mean, it was recorded so well, as you say, that, it holds up better than a lot of stuff from that time holds up. It really does. I mean, it's all credit to great songs, great playing, great recording and engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a great question. I want to just ask you this before it goes away, but Doug McKenzie asked who came up with the idea to start this working for the weekend with a cowbell. Was that your idea? Did it just sort of, to count it off, you just thought,
Somebody asked me that the other day, and I was trying to think, yeah, that probably just happened naturally. And I always had a cowbell in my drum kit. When we were just learning that song, Paul came to the practice with everything on cassette back in the day.
yeah,
We would just play it through a little cassette player in the room where we were all set up in. And I just, it just kind of happened.
yeah,
Don't.
yeah. And is that how a lot of the songs came together? Like, would Paul have a pretty good idea of the
Yeah.
form of the song ahead of time?
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And tempos and arrangement. And we would all just put our own thing in on it,
yeah,
and just pretty much play what was on he'd just have like a little beatbox, drum machine in the background, not too sophisticated, just so you'd catch the rest of the basic of the song and the melody. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't want to bring up a sad note, but you mentioned Scott, and and I always, when I started getting into you guys as a drummer, I always appreciated his bass playing. Like he was such a unique bass player in the way he played. I mean, he played. I won't say like John Entwistle was a unique bass player in the way he played too.
Of course.
Yeah, and almost he played almost like a kind of like a guitar player in many ways. But the bass lines that he played in, like, you were talking about working for the weekend. There's a great bass line. Queen of the Broken Hearts, I always thought the bass line he played in that song, and Hot Girls in Love. I mean, it's just, he was, and I'm sorry, I told you this at the time. I remember when he passed, and it was a very sad situation, sad time, and I'm sorry again, because I know you guys were like brothers, and
Yeah, we were.
yeah, and
And Spider has come in and, he honors Scott's parts every day that we perform. And actually, Ken Spider Seneve has been in the band longer than Scott was originally.
wow, yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, that's a testament to the band's longevity, right? I mean,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
But Scott, like you say, rest his soul. He laid down some just
He was very
incredible parts.
unique and had a unique sound too with that
Yeah.
Spectre bass. It was, sat in the mix. It
Right.
wasn't too bassy, and you could hear his notes and stuff like, in his patterns that he played.
Yeah.
And he worked really well with Paul, what Paul was writing,
Well said, Maddie. Yeah, I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was his sound when you listen to it. It's trebly is the wrong word, but like you say, it's not as low as what a lot of bass players, the register that they play in, and it's sort of more up a little higher in the mix, note wise, and it
Scotty came from a rhythm and blues funk bass.
yeah.
Not the pun like bass, like bass guitar, like his groove, what he was coming from, genrely. and that just seemed to fit with the early Loverboy when we were writing, and that funky rhythm section.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Great sound. Yeah. Again, I can, it always stood out to me, his bass playing.
How to
Along
get
with,
my hands on one of those t-shirts, Johnny?
I'm going to send you one of these t-shirts when we're done. I'm going to get your address. Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be so honored. Well, let's play some more music now that we know that's whatever the gremlins were inside my iTunes are gone. We're going to play a little bit more music. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything before we start to wrap things up here, but I'm going to see if there's any other questions before I move on.
Okay.
And yeah, let's see. Oh, John Ferraro, my good friend, is asking who your favorite NHL team is.
Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal Canadiens. Okay, there you go.
Because my name is French Canadian. My dad was from Quebec. So
Okay.
I grew up watching hockey and loving hockey when there was just original six. And black and white hockey night in Canada on CBC Saturday nights. And we hated the Leafs and we hated the Bruins. Pardon, Johnny. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Understandable. I get it. I know how that goes. And that's the Bruins. That's like the Celtics and the Lakers. It's the Bruins and the Canadians.
Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the Habs for me
Yeah.
all the way.
Great. That's great.
And I live here, and the Hurricanes,
Yeah.
the Carolina Hurricanes, came from Hartford, and they were the original Whalers.
Oh, right. Right. Wow.
Of
I get
course.
it.
So I made a couple of notes, and I did want to cover something.
Yes.
Just a little bit, not to mess up your script, Johnny, but I
I'm unscripted.
realized when I was doing this, I've been with Zildjian 44 years. I signed in 81 with Lenny,
Oh, man.
and I've been with Yamaha 34 years, and I signed on with them in 91, and Vader drumsticks 23 years, and I thought it was 30, and I was just emailing with Chad the other day and putting a stick order in, and I happened to ask him because I wanted to get it right for our interview today.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that I joined in 2002 officially. And I've been with Remo for 53 years. When I started professionally right out of high school in my first band, I've been playing Remo my whole life.
Yeah.
And for basically professionally from 72 to 25.
Man.
I'm a loyal old dog.
You sure are, man. You sure are. And that's a beautiful thing. And I just want to say, I started to say this at the top of the show. When I met you, this is what I remember, Maddie. Lenny, my dear friend, God bless him, God rest his soul. Lenny, when I was working for DW, invited me to a little cocktail party that Zildjian was having at the NAMM show. And this would have been January 88. I was still at DW. So I had gone out to...
When were you with Simmons?
85 to 86. And then DW 86 to 89.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we met when I was at Simmons, but of course I certainly knew who you were. And, but I remember you came to the Zildjian party and I saw you across the room and I introduced myself to you and I said, man, I love your drumming.
Lenny's favorite saying was, "It's the berries."
That's right. Yes.
You remember that?
I absolutely do. It's the berries. Yeah. And Jump Back Baby was another, was a favorite, but it's the berries. Absolutely. Yeah, Johnny, it's the berries. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he took me to this seafood restaurant, very famous in Boston one time in the early days, called...
I'll bet it was Union Oyster House, maybe something like that, or...
something like that, or 1812.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
a year.
it was a year. Okay.
I don't know what year that was.
I'd have to
Um,
think of what it
and
was.
there was
Yeah.
pictures of the Kennedys and everybody up on the walls. And it was just like this funky little
Yeah.
seafood oyster house.
I'll bet it was great. Yeah. Lenny knew
Oh
all the
man.
great spots, man. He absolutely knew all the great spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so that was when I met you was 88, and you
Right.
came by the DW booth the next day and tried some pedals, and I sent you a couple to try, and that began our friendship. And then a year later I was at Zildjian, and then we got to work together all the time. But
Yeah.
just an amazing history that I'm so proud of, just
And I just sent all my crashes up and splashes to the factory for new credits for
yeah.
a
Chris,
new set this year, up to Eric.
that's
And
great.
yeah,
Busy year. So on those old records, I know they were A Zildjians pretty
yeah,
much across the board, right? And they
yeah.
sound great, man. That's when the A's were like,
And that's when I was playing 18s up front,
yeah, yep,
the A's. Yeah, 18s. And then,
like medium crashes probably, or medium thins.
yeah, medium to medium thins.
Yeah,
18s up front and a 17 on the back corner over the floors and a 16 over the left side. And I'm still playing 17s up front and 16s on the corner, and a 19 thrash ride up on the top left, and 21-inch or 20-inch K custom ride,
yeah,
and
yep,
20-inch China trash on the
yep.
back right corner, and 12, 10, and 8 splashes. The 12 and the 10 over the hats, and the 8 up front between the 12 and the 13.
So still, really, you've maybe a little smaller sizes on the on the front crashes, but pretty much the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
setup.
And I moved to 17s because we were back in the early 90s. We were playing a lot of casinos and clubs,
Yeah, yep,
and they were small stages. So I moved down so that the 17 would crash and get out of the way,
yes,
especially with Mike standing right in front of me. And that was before we got into in-ear monitors. So it was like wide open. And I noticed in the video of Weekend that I was drumming. There was a wedge behind me on the drum riser, and the track was coming acoustically, and I was playing the drums, but they had to crank it up
yeah.
in order to play in time to hear it.
I was going to ask you that. So you had a bass drum pedal, because sometimes I know when people do videos they get rid of the bass drum pedal, and sometimes
Right.
it's
I,
Zildjian. We
I
had
played everything so it
played-
looked as real as possible.
Yeah,
and
that's
hit
what I
the
thought.
crashes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because now we had those video cymbals, the two cymbals glued together.
Yeah.
We call
And
them
I have
deads.
done that in when Solid Gold, we went on there, and American Bandstand with
Yeah,
Dick
yeah.
Clark back in the early 80s. And I remember the video cymbals with the two, and you hit them and they didn't move like
No,
didn't look natural, and they just went clunk.
it felt like you're hitting a brick wall. Yeah, I just like
Exactly.
yeah, and they made no noise. But yeah, that's what I thought. It looked like, and I know that was the norm back then, was to crank the music incredibly loud so that you could play the drums at regular velocity and still hear yourself, still playing
Right.
time to the tune.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, wow, that's some good backstory. And I was going to also say that I had one more point to make about that, but it's gone now. Oh, I was going to mention too that I remember you doing a sort of one-off tour in the 90s with Tom Cochran. You came through
Yeah.
Boston.
Yeah,
And-
I was freelancing then.
Yeah, that's and I brought my kids who were really little at the time, and my son who's now 37, believe it or not. I think he was maybe about 5 or 6, still remembers being backstage, and I think you or somebody on the tour had some marbles and was letting him play with the marbles in the dressing room, like across the floor or something, and to keep a little kid occupied while you and I talk drums.
I probably had a bag of marbles.
Anyway, yeah, I was thinking about that. I mean, and it again, it's your versatility. I remember that, and I'm guessing
Yeah,
Tom is
that was a
probably an old
great three
friend.
years working with Tom and
Yeah,
Mickey Curry, one of our good buddies.
yeah,
He drummed on that Mad Mad World with Spider, our bass player, played with Tom and down in Memphis with Joe Hardy producing, and
right.
they cut that record down there. And
Yeah,
Tom called me in early '91 and I wasn't working, and I had just finished freelancing when the band shut down between '89 and '94 or '93. Um, I started freelancing with Sue Medley, who was Arnoff played Kenny played on her album at and recorded her first record, and Mike Wanchek, Mellencamp's guitar player, produced it. And down in at Cougar's studio,
okay. Yep.
Kenny played on it, and I was in the live band, and we did, I don't know, 8 months of touring across the country. And then I went out with Kim Mitchell in '89 and went coast to coast in Canada with him and recorded a couple of tracks. Um, and then I got the call from Tom to join his all-star band that he was
Mm,
putting together to tour when Life is a Highway was racing up the charts.
yeah, yeah. Such a great tune. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I remember you killed it. It was great. And of course, Tom, all the Red Rider stuff too, Lunatic
Yeah.
Fringe, and yeah,
And that was the first year, that was the year that I signed with Yamaha, and I was playing piano black recording customs on that tour with the big double kit and the
yeah,
double
yep.
22 by 18s, 10, 12, 13, 16, 18 floors, all in. But the bass drums were RTC recording tour customs or rock tour customs.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, I know some people mix the different woods, right? You
Yeah,
can
I
mix the
like the
toms and
birch, the toms, but we went for a heavier bass drum sound.
yeah, yeah,
And that was Larry Mansbridge was my rep then. He's since retired. Um, and he recommended that I try the RTCs for bass drums, which was a mahogany blend with maple or something like that.
yeah. I remember that. I remember when they started doing that, and they were really beautiful sounding drums. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
they were so punchy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was my black kit that when I first started in '91 with Yamaha. And I toured 3 years with Tom, right through to '93. And then Loverboy started talking about getting back together. We'd done a benefit in Vancouver at a club called 86th Street, which was a club owned by management, and it was on the Expo 86 grounds.
oh
And
yeah,
Brian Adams was playing, and Chilliwack played, and Brian McLeod was fighting cancer at the Houston clinic, cutting edge clinic down in Houston, the cancer clinic.
mm,
And we wanted to raise money for his research, for his treatment. And so Adams was on the bill, and Brian came into the dressing room after And Brian had called me when I was still working with Tom in Toronto, and we were in rehearsals. And Brian called me and said, "You got to put the band together." Because Doug, the last tour that we did in '89 with Def Leppard in the UK, Doug wasn't in the band.
Mm.
And so Brian said, Adams said, "You need to get Doug back in the band, and we got to put the band back together. We want you guys to play with the original band for this benefit for McLeod
Oh, man. That's
in
great.
Houston." Yeah. And the rest, we've been touring ever since.
That's great.
So Brian walked in with our manager, Bruce Allen, who managed Brian at the time as well. And after our set, and came in and just like laid it all out. And Brian just went, Brian Adams said, "You're one of the best fucking bands live on the planet. If you guys don't put this band back together again, it's a crime," and or whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we started talking, and we went out and did some clubs that summer just to test the water. It wasn't a bitter breakup. It was just guys were just done after 10 years of touring, and
Sure. Yeah.
writing was going different directions, and guys wanted to do solo albums and stuff like that. And
It's normal. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And it's cool when that happens, when you guys, like you say, you go out and you do a couple of gigs just to see how it feels or a benefit.
yeah, yeah.
And you realize how much you miss it, and the fans.
And I remember that night we went to play This Could Be the Night, and Doug had like a baby grand on stage, and he just started this whole intro, and I was just bawling, and Mike turned around and he was looking at me over the toms, and he was crying too. It was just like one of those magic moments, emotional moments.
Yeah.
And we just knew right there that
Yeah.
we needed to put the band back together the way it was from
Yeah.
the beginning.
And it really is, other than Scott, rest his soul. I mean, it really has been the same group of, the four of you guys have been, from the beginning pretty
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're still going.
Yeah, still doing it.
Yeah. Well, let's play another track. I'm going to play Hot Girls in Love, and we'll kind of say goodbye after that.
Okay.
We'll wrap it up on a very, very high note. Here we go. Hot Girls in Love from Keep It
And
Up.
we
this
still
was-
play that live today.
I was going to say, you must play this one live. Yeah, you have to, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And this was 83, I believe, right?
correct.
All right.
Recorded
Yeah.
in '83. Yeah.
Yeah. Big, big song. Here we go.
Love my Zildjians.
Yes, sir.
She's so young at heart. She likes the pleasure of his company. She cuts the inside groove with a silver spoon. She likes her tapes on 10, and it's the same as her anatomy. She's on a rainbow cruise all the way to my room. She's turning
You hear
on
that
the
bass?
heat.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's got the magic touch. She's
Yeah.
turning on the heat, and it's a little too much. She's turning on the heat, and it's 100 above, yeah. Hot girls in love. I'm in love. Too many men to please. She counts them all on a rosary. You know you might get burned, so be careful where you
Still plays that solo to a T.
That's great. Yeah.
She's turning on the heat. She got the magic touch. She's turning on the heat. Ooh, and it's a little too much. She's turning on the heat. It's 100 above. Hot girls in love. Hot girls in love. It's 100 above. The hot girls in love. Yeah. Be careful where you touch. 'Cause it's a little too much. She got everything she needs. Yeah, what she does in front of me. She's turning on the heat. She's turning on the heat. She got that look in her eye. I think I gotta know why.
Fade out.
Yeah.
We used to go into a drum and bass solo at the end of the song and just keep that groove going into a little drum break and then a bass and drum break. And now, since we've been doing support tours, we don't have time for the all of that. So now we do a bass guitar feature on the end where we're all just grooving along, and Spider gets like little to show his stuff
Yeah.
for the end, and Mike comes back in at the end, and yeah, we play that every night like that.
That's great. Do you save that for toward the end of the night? Is that sort of like a last
Yeah.
song or an encore, or
No.
working for the weekend's probably the encore, I'm guessing, right?
It goes from Hot Girls to Turn Me Loose to Weekend are the last three.
Yeah.
But in the 90-minute set, the headline set, it would be Notorious, Lucky, Queen, Top, It's Your Life, then the ballad. Usually This Could Be the Night, and then Kid Is Hot,
Yeah.
and then When It's Over, Hot Girls, Turn Me Loose, Weekend.
Yeah.
And then in the encore, it would be Loving Every Minute of It, or Jump and Loving Every Minute of It. Depends on the night.
Yeah. Yeah. On how it all feels for everybody and all that. Yeah.
But on the support tours, like the summer tours we've done the last 3 years, there's no encore. We just finish with Weekend and get off. And it'll be nice to be playing all our songs again this year.
Yeah. I was going to say, on the one hand, you leave them wanting more, but at the same time, yeah, people want an encore. You want to give them what they want. So
Yeah, yeah. But in the set during the support tours, we usually play Loving Every Minute of It in the middle of the set, and not the ballad
yeah.
or When It's Over.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Maddie, I'm hoping I get to see you this summer. Hopefully you'll come
Yeah,
through
me too.
my way. We'll stay in touch. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it'd be so great to see you in person again after so many years.
Yeah. No doubt.
Thanks for being here today, my friend.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for watching at home. Thanks for tuning in today. A big hand for my buddy, Matt Frenette. Legendary Matt Frenette. And yeah, Maddie, hang with me for 1 second. I'll end the stream. We'll say goodbye. Again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can listen to the podcast on all podcast platforms. And a reminder, Live from My Drum Room t-shirts are available in sizes extra small to double XL, $25 in the US. That includes shipping. Here is my Venmo payment information at John-DChristopher-2. And don't forget to include your size and your shipping address. Very important information. 100% of the proceeds for all t-shirts go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society. You're donating to a great cause when you buy one of these t-shirts. So once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Remember, no drummers are harmed on any episode. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. See you soon.